What's up, my people? Welcome to my YouTube channel, The Kenyan American Home, or TV, whichever you're watching me from. And today is a good session, another good session that we get to learn about the student visa, F1 visa. And, I have a young man here who has a story that I'm excited for you to be able to hear, to be able to hear his story, but also, know his journey. But so we don't just talk about, his visa journey. It's always good to know, what is his backstory, so that because my channel is, I encourage people. We talk about immigration, talk about opportunities in the US, and once you land here, how you can be able to adjust to life in the US. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited because this guy went to a big school. University of Kentucky is not a small school. It's a big school. It's a big land grant school. So without much further ado, my friends, welcome none other than drum rolls, Rotich.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Thank you for having me today, the Kenyan American.
Welcome, man. Welcome, Rotich. Rotich, I'm excited today because we're also going to be talking about something that people have been asking about, Mpower financing, and I know you use that. So, who is Rotich? Who is Rotich?
Okay. Wow. Sijui hata nianze wapi. Oh, let me start from, my background and school and, how I ended up, coming to the US.
Mm-hmm.
So I was born and raised in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County. So people from Eldoret, greetings.
Wait, what does Uasin Gishu mean? It's like
I don't know, like
no.
maybe somebody in the comment section can try to explain. Yeah, I think it goes way back, but it's now a county, so it's Uasin Gishu County. But I grew up specifically, in the up country, not in town. So somebody who grew up in, the village. If you know of Kaptagat, those people know Kaptagat. It's yeah, it's famous for athletics. People come to train because of the altitude and stuff.
Is it Iten? Is Iten in close to that?
Oh, Iten also is a good training place, I think, but that one is in Elgeyo Marakwet County, so it's different from Kaptagat.
Okay, someone says they went to Moi Girls Eldoret, so
so that's in town, like just opposite where I used to work. I used to work in Diamond Towers, so I would just see Moi Girls from the window. So I grew up, went to school, primary school, completed in 2010. I did my Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, or KCPE. And then after that, I got a school outside the county. So I had to move out of the comfort zone. And I went to West Pokot County, a school called Ortum Secondary School. Not so popular, but it's in, on your way to Kitale and then Kapenguri, and then you now go down the valley. It was just, you see a lot of hills and mountains, and, you are away from that was the first time I moved out of, my county. Yeah. Then did my high school for 4 years until 2014. So I did my KCSE, or high school, they call it high school diploma here, in 2014, and then I got an A- of 78 points. At that time, it was still competitive, getting into campus. So I wanted to do nursing, but I couldn't make it because of the cluster points. They were so high.
Job.
Yeah. So I ended up getting admission into JQuat. People from JQuat. Hi. So I went now to Nairobi. I did a bachelor's in procurement and contract management. So I'm a business person. So we were in the school of, business. And I would say that was the last option that I had. I didn't think of, business. So I was just wanted to like do healthcare related stuff. But because of the points, I had to like go to business. But it was an amazing journey. 4 years, 2019, I graduated with a second class upper division. The class of 2015. Greetings to you. And then now the journey became, they usually say you need to be book smart and street smart. So I was book smart, but I was not ready for the market. I didn't know it's rough.
Wait,
uh,
before you go on, you say something that is very interesting. I think until you get out of Kenya and you come to countries like the US, it's
yeah,
very weird that we have JAB, the Joint Admission Board, that tells kids
uh,
that you cannot take this because your points, which is I think it's very convoluted. It's not, because then you end up forcing people to do just dumping people in certain
yeah,
degrees. And in the US, it doesn't matter. It doesn't we don't there's no joint admission board. It's pretty
yeah,
much you went to high school, you got your high school diploma or degree or certificate, and then from that apply to the school. It's your statement of purpose. However, the essay you write, that is what determines whether you're going to get admitted to the school and the program. And also, there's also so many schools in the US, like 4,000 of them. And so you hear that, so because like you got an A minus,
yeah.
and the fact that the only course you would get is procurement, and like nursing, you're not qualified for nursing. Yeah, it's
It's
so
crazy.
backwards. It's very backwards, very backwards, very backwards, very backwards. All right, so go on. So you're done with school, you
Yeah,
graduate, and
yeah,
I know, like I was there. I probably did not stomach as much, but you finish university, and the expectation is, you're done with school, and then life, you get a good job, and life goes up from there. Was that the
yeah.
case for you?
Of course, like every graduate, that's the expectation, but life has its own way and of telling you, this is how it's supposed to be done. So I finished, that was like in June 2019. And then I was looking for internship. So I remember I would print my CVs and work, office to office, looking for internship, not even a job, internship. And I
Internship.
couldn't find an internship. And I was like, this is crazy. Oh my God. I remember I walked to industrial area. I went to Kenya Pipeline. Sometimes you'll be returned at the gate. And they'll be like, send your CV via email. And then you'll be like, okay. Didn't give up. I gave myself like 1 month. I was like, I'm gonna try. It doesn't work. I'm going back to Eldoret. If everything goes bad, you usually go back home. So I was like, I was not chased away from home, so I just go back home and try to figure it out. So that was in July 2019. I didn't get anything, so I went back home, helped my parents with the, grazing. Kuchunga ng'ombe. And I was a graduate. I have my papers, just sitting there, and I'm like, life is so funny. There's some jokes people usually make, like the money used in schooling you should have started a business. It started to make sense to me at that point. And so I stayed home, July. And then in August, there's this politician. Unfortunately, that is how the systems work in Kenya. You
Uh-huh.
know, you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. So I did that. They told me, they just made a phone call and they told me to report to work. So
Oh wow. So like Just like that.
just like that. So I worked at a milk factory. Those who know, in Eldoret, I don't want to mention the name, but
Mhm.
I worked in a milk factory. So it was just casual job, like kazi ya mikono. So I used to work like 16-hour shifts. So I would like, so I lived in Kaptagat, and I didn't have money to rent. Like whatever I was being paid, if I tried to find a house, it couldn't be even like sustainable. So I remember asking my dad. He had like a motorcycle. So I borrowed the motorcycle, went to the garage, fixed it, and then I would like fuel it. um and then so I would leave the house at 3, and then I would fuel. It was like, I don't know, 42 kilometers. So I would drive, I would like ride the
Wait,
motorcycle.
42 kilometers to work.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I live
Okay.
I live in a place called Flax in Kaptagat. So from there to Eldoret town is 42 kilometers. So I will fuel, and take me like 25, 40 minutes. I'll be there. You know, so it was like kind of like the like you package milk, right? So the milk is okay, like the machine kind of like processes the milk, then put it in like the not the cartons, like those things, I don't know. And then you have to like package them in a box, right? So the conveyor just keeps coming. So if you look sideways, the milk is down. And I remember we used to pray that the machine would break down, so we like go
Oh,
for
get a break.
yeah,
Oh
because
man.
if it breaks, then it takes like the minimum amount is 1 hour, because that's to like run the maintenance cycle again. Then we'll go, sleep on the cartons, just take a nap, not even sleep, like taking a nap. It was crazy. And I started remembering, I'm a graduate, but that's like nobody sees that. And that is the expectation of most people. Like, I go to school, get a good job, but life is, life is something else. So I worked there for 3 months. Within those 3 months, I was like just looking around, still sending my resume to employers. So I was just doing now like via email, not working office to office. And I got this company is based in Canada. I know there's some who are watching, so shout out to you. And they have like a branch or a subsidiary in Eldoret. So I interviewed with them. It's like an IT and consulting company. And then, they were like, we're impressed with you, your qualification, somebody who like looks ambitious. And I was like, yeah, give me the chance. I'll show you. And I did. So I started working with them in November 2019, before COVID. So worked until March. COVID came, went to work from home. So I worked from home until the last minute. I would say it was a nice experience. They challenged me. I moved the ranks, 3 times in 3 years. I was like promoted 3 times in 3 years. And what I learned is that, once you start feeling comfortable, that's the time to move. So for me, I reached a point, I was like, I almost hit my marks. And I was like, what next? What else? And that is when now I started thinking about, coming to the US. So let me say, coming to the US, I started like not even coming to the US, because my intention was not to come to the US.
Mhm.
That's the funny side of the story.
Before you move there. So you said this like the company you worked for before you decided to think about moving to the US. You said it was a Canadian company in Kenya.
Yeah, it's based in Canada, Ontario, Ottawa, but they
Okay.
have like subsidiaries around the world. So they have branches in Kenya, in the
Ah.
UK, even
Is
in the
it is
US.
it, is it a company that like someone here who's looking for a job, if they wanted to go find a job there, like how would they go about it?
Yeah, so they do have like a website. and I think there's openings in the US as well. I think there is one in Chicago.
Okay.
But maybe, I'll just send you a link later on. I don't know,
Okay.
like,
No, sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds good.
yeah.
Sounds good. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. So
Um,
then, so then you started thinking about coming to the
yeah, I
US.
started thinking in January 2022. So that is where now my story starts. And then we go down, down, down. So in January 2022, I started thinking of, coming, to North America specifically. So I was not looking into Australia or UK or any other country. I was looking into North America. So I thought of Canada would be a bit, somebody usually starts with the US and then they're like, US is so hard to get in. Let me go to the second one. So my second on the list was Canada. And so in January 2022, I started like, I think there's a video you did. I don't know if it's about the express entry thing. I don't know if you've done a video about express entry or it's somebody
Oh,
else.
I've talked about, some programs too that are in Canada.
For Canada, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this express entry thing, and I ended
What
up, thinking
what
about
province?
it.
What province
Pardon?
was that? What
Oh,
province?
like okay, like the express entry is like a lottery, like for Canada,
Yeah.
But I was thinking about, just any province that I will meet the qualifications. So I was not looking specifically for any. But before that, I was like, I tried to talk to my employer, try to see if they can move me there because I think there's some sort of there's something called international in the US you call it L1 visa. So
Yeah,
if like
L1
the
international.
company has a branch, then they can move you. So I started conversation with them in January, and everything went well. Started conversation in February, March. Um, the only thing that in that it was budgets and stuff. So like they have to plan like you're moving. There's a lot of cost implication. Who's gonna bear the cost? So the conversation ended around like April 2022. It wasn't like possible, and I was like, okay, let me try the express entry thing. So what I did is I went and did my IELTS exam. So I did IELTS. And then there's some points, like they calculate your points, like the IELTS score, the age, adaptability, do you have a job offer? So I remember the points were so high. I was like, even if it's having hope, like this one is far-fetched. And I was
Oh,
like, I need to,
the points they
yeah,
required. Okay.
it's the cutoff. So the cutoff was so high, and I was like, man, I need to be realistic. If I want to move quickly, then I need to find another route. Um, so after thinking about it, and then in September now, I was like, I need to find a school in Canada. So I was like, okay, Google schools in Canada, Ontario. That's what I did, and that's what I usually tell people. Like, if you don't know, like, just Google. Somebody will ask you like, "Hey, can you recommend schools?" It's hard. Like, there are a lot of schools. So I did look for a school, but because of the Canada, visa thing, I was not sure. So I used an agency. So there's an education agency. I won't mention the name, but they have a branch in Eldoret and in Nairobi. So I went to them, gave them my documents, and they were like, "Oh, we can find you a school." So I got this school in Ottawa, Ontario. It's called Algonquin College.
Mhm.
The reason why I chose that school was because they were offering, I wanted to do something in supply chain. So they were offering a postgraduate certificate, like a 1-year postgraduate certificate in supply chain management. So, I said, okay, let me go with this. So I started the process, collected my, documents, needed to apply for the visa. And then I started like applying for the visa. I went for the medicals in Is it called? I remember. I don't.
Biometrics? Wait.
IOM.
Oh yeah, the international.
Yeah, I went for the medicals. I went to the VFS Global office, I think opposite Safaricom House in
To do your,
Nairobi.
do
By
your
finger
biometrics.
my biometrics, did my biometrics. So I submitted my application. I was just, now waiting for the decision. So that was in around. So before that, like this school was giving me a conditional acceptance. They needed me to pay some fees, like the first semester tuition.
Okay.
So I remember it was around 8,000 Canadian, around there. So
No, Canadian.
I paid the first semester fees before applying for my visa.
Wait, you paid before you applied for the visa?
Yeah, it was a conditional acceptance. Like the acceptance will not be valid if you don't pay the fees,
Okay. Okay.
or they call it the deposit. But they were saying if you pay it now, it's gonna like you're not gonna come and pay again the fees. Like you're just gonna go
It's
and
like a
study.
deposit. It's like a
So they
deposit.
want you to commit, yeah, basically. Like you wouldn't now start, taking another school.
Okay.
So in November, I paid the fees. Then December, did the visa application, and then the waiting started. It's a journey of patience. But interestingly enough, mine only took 3 weeks to get the decision. And in January this year, 2023, got an email from IRCC. They usually tell you like a message is waiting for you here. And
In your
they're
inbox.
like, oh
Okay.
my goodness. So I checked, it was a refusal, so I was denied. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not gonna stay in Kenya and just, maybe start a business. Um
So that
so
did that did not like discourage you because there's people who
yeah,
once they
I
apply
understand that, definitely. And I had like very good managers, but I would say like when I was doing this, my the people I work with, my immediate managers knew all about it. They were even supporting me. So shout out
that's
to shout out to them. So I didn't give up, and so I took a break. So I went back and requested a refund of my money that I paid. They refunded me the money, the tuition fees. And then now I stayed until like April.
good thing. Good thing that was
Yeah,
Friday.
I know it's scary. And I remember my dad was like, wanasemanga in Swahili like ilikulwa. 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 But they returned, like, even because of the exchange rate, I got more than I'd paid. So I got more in shillings. So I remember I'd paid like it was around 923,000, and then they refunded me. It was 975,000. So
Ah, I
the
wanted to
exchange.
put the name. I wanted to put the name of the school there because it's
Yeah, it's Algonquin College. Yeah, so
yeah, it's a difficult name. Pauline is
yeah.
asking, did they refund your admission fee?
So the thing is, they refund you if it's something that's like you cannot control. Like let's say you
If
get
it's
denied a visa. So when you
Mhm.
get denied a visa, you send them the email from IRCC, the letter, and then they'll just process your refund. But if it's something like, let's say you say, I don't want to continue with this school, then they'll deduct some some amount, depending on how close you are to the start of the school. So the more you get close, the less of a refund you get. But maybe for people who want to know why, like the reason I was denied, the reason was because of finances. I used a bank statement from my uncle, and the visa officer was like, "Yes, we can see the money is there." Like I had like a bank statement of like 30 million Kenya shillings, and they were like, "We see the money. Like we're not disputing that, but how sure are we that this uncle is
Will
gonna release the funds once we give you the visa?" So,
uh,
and then
did
for
you
Canada, you're not there. to say,
Yeah.
hey, explain yourself. No, they just deny you. So
Did you have an affidavit when you
yeah,
applied from
yeah,
your uncle?
I had
You had
everything,
you had
everything,
everything. Ah,
everything.
but it's
Actually, that
so
was the only reasons. Proof of, like the home ties. I had everything. Like my paperwork was good. I was just suspecting, the bank statement, and that was the one that threw me
yeah,
off.
yeah.
And
So one thing about the US and Canada, they actually a lot of people when you go and they ask you, so who's going to be funding this? And you say your uncle. That
yeah,
is, that is the story with like 80% of Kenyans. We like to say uncle when
yeah, in
they
quotes.
come. So even the minute you say uncle, it's like a red flag. Oh, my uncle is funding for my trip. My uncle is doing this. So
Yeah,
that's why sometimes it's easier. Like if your uncle can give you a bank statement, is it possible to ask your uncle, hey, lend me some money for for a little bit, and then I
yeah.
can take whatever I have together with what they lend me to use as a as a
Actually, that
bank.
is the best way. If they can transfer the money to you early, like let's say they transfer to you in your bank and then it stays for like 6 months, and then now you use it, maybe they transfer to your parents or like your dad or mom. That will be like you're gonna like 99% sure of approval. But if it's like in their bank, then you have to like do that with everything. And like I usually say like we take things casually sometimes back home,
Yeah,
but like somebody here like in America or Canada, like you need to make them understand why your uncle is gonna pay for you and you still have your parents. The parents are alive. They don't get that thing. Like
yeah.
they don't see the logic. So
No, because
then
it doesn't like logically, and you'll tell me when you live in the US, it's your parents are your first responsibility.
yeah,
And so if the bank statement is from your parents, that's understandable. My dad is
yeah,
paying for my school fees. My dad is paying for my trip to go, and visit. But the minute it goes to an uncle, because here in the US, like other, it's usually the nuclear family.
yeah,
Once it goes after your parents, then the other people are not inclined. You're not my problem. People here are independent. It's like you're not my problem. I'm your uncle. I don't have to pay I don't have to pay for
yeah,
you for anything. And so that's why that line is not they don't they don't buy it because they don't buy it here. Your uncle
yeah,
outside of your family, people like do their own things.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay. So after that, I started like looking for schools, and I got two schools. I got South Dakota, and so South Dakota was offering a master's in operations management, and
Hmm.
then Kentucky was offering a master's in supply chain. So after searching, I narrowed down to those two, and I chose the University of Kentucky because their program was kind of like accelerated. So my program is like supposed to be 2 years, but I'm crushing it in like 11 months. So I'm gonna be done, within a year. And I was like, this is good for me, especially like I've been in the industry, worked in the corporate, and I need like little amount of break, and then get back, to working. So that worked for me. But I would say so. The search began after the denial of the Canada visa. I gave up with Canada, and I was like, maybe God has bigger plans. God has said the future is like, no, this one I want you to be to go for something great. Um, so I started applying in May. Um, Actually, my admission, I would say like my process to the US was the quickest. Like it took me less than 3 months from the time I started the process, like looking for the school and everything. So I, contacted the recruiters. And the good thing about Kentucky, University of Kentucky, like they are so fast. Like you send them an email today, by the end of the day they have already responded. So I remember I applied in May, around like May 10th. I'm not sure about the specific day. Within 2 days, they had responded and they gave me my admission. So I got my
Wait,
admission in like 2 days.
okay.
That was like, it just blew my mind. And I was like, okay. So after getting my admission now, the process starts, you need to find, you need to get your I-20. So this is the, like, somebody, if you want to like just start, like, find a school, then the next thing, get admission. Now after getting admission, now worry about how to get the funding, and I think we're going to talk about the funding later on.
Yeah. So,
um
like your application, is it just did they require you to do like a thesis, statement of purpose,
oh,
or
okay, okay. So let me check my the documents I used, because it's been a while. So for my school application, I had like a statement of purpose. So, why Kentucky, why supply chain? And then I had my resume, I had my transcripts, of course, passport. I had referees. So for referees, you need to list either a professional, somebody you've worked with in a company, or somebody like an academic, maybe a professor
how
or
many did
something.
they need for you?
So they needed one. So you could either submit a professional or an academic. No, they needed two, but you could submit. If you don't get an academic one, you can submit two professional. So they
Mhm.
wanted academic and one. But if you miss, you can submit two of the same. Um, and then for the English, they needed a proof of English um, exam, which they were allowing you to do Duolingo. So Duolingo is like, it's like, I think it's online. You can just do it. It's cheaper. I think $45. But they said, if you can give us a letter from your school, and the letters will say like, during your bachelor's, the mode of instruction was English, like the teaching was English, the curriculum was English, then we're going to exempt you from that requirement. So I went to my school within those 2 days. I got a letter. They lodged for me a letter, and I sent them to the school and went to the admissions team, and they say, you've been exempted from the English requirement. Yeah.
Ah,
So
and they usually do that a lot for Kenya,
yeah, for
but you
Kenya.
have to know that to ask for that. Otherwise, you'll go do the
Yeah, you need to
exam.
ask. If you don't ask, then you can do IELTS. It's a cost for you.
Okay, okay. And then so
Okay.
you sent. Oh, how long was your statement of purpose? Did you?
Statement of purpose. Let me remember. One, two, three. I think like 3 pages. Yeah, it wasn't long. Like, just why this university, why the US. Um, I talked about my career and stuff, and then what I intend to get from the program. Like, just
Okay,
simple. Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah, so those are the documents I used. And then now I got the admission, and not the admission, the acceptance, right? So I need to get my I-20. And I was like, I looked at the amount they're asking, and I was like, okay, where do I
So
get this money?
so they
Yeah.
admitted you. What they admitted you? You got the acceptance letter
Yeah.
before you got the I-20. Because
Yeah.
for you to
Usually
get the I-20, you need to
need the
provide funds.
proof of funds. Yeah. So they said, send us a bank statement, or a letter from your sponsor, or whatever. So most people, when they hear, about funding, they just think the first thing is bank statement, right? But it can be anything. It can be scholarship. It can be someone who is like a charity, like a sponsor or something. So I started the process of like applying for a loan, which through, like, there's the financial institution called Mpower. And yeah, because I couldn't get a bank statement like of that crazy amount. And usually people,
How
when they
much?
look at the amount, they're
Wait,
like,
how much were they asking?
Okay, so this, as I said, like it's an accelerated program, right?
Mhm.
So they had like tuition. So tuition was they had put like everything for the entire program.
Program.
So
Mhm.
tuition was 36,000 US dollars. So that was to cover for your tuition for the entire program. And then for living expenses, they usually approximate and they put it like a
Yeah.
so high figure, right? So for the living, they'd put like 16,000.
So that's like
um
52, 52.
and then there's health insurance. So for us, you don't they don't, like, you can find your own insurance, but they recommend that you use the one provided by the university. So insurance was 2,800.
Okay.
So yeah, total it was 56
54. What is it?
56,000.
50? Oh, okay.
50,
56.
yeah,
56,000.
yeah, 56,000, everything. But you've not
That's
included your education.
that's like
So
8.5 million Kenya shillings.
yeah, in Kenya shillings, you're gonna be like, I need to sell a kidney.
And there's so like yeah, so that's the thing. You're telling somebody who is like you just graduated and you had a few years of working, and then they ask you for 8.5 million Kenya shillings.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the thing that people don't often talk about. It's everyone wants to come to Canada, US, to Europe, Australia, but we don't often talk about that it needs money. You need money to actually make it to come. And so that's one of those things that it's not just a handout. You can't hand it out to somebody. And if you don't
yeah,
have the money, then you need to go dig in because there are ways to come if you don't have money.
yeah.
But the thing is you need money. You need money for the visa and all those so many things. But I'll let you go on. Let you go. Did Kentucky have a application fee?
Yeah, they had, but they were waiving at that time. So, but you'll have to request, like, if you go and apply and just pay it, like you've paid it. But if you say, hey, I'm looking, I want to like inquire, I'm not maybe like in a good position right now. Can you like waive it? They do it case by case basis. So you want to like just talk to the recruiter. They can say yes or no. So they said
Ah,
yes.
somebody asked how much is medicals? The US doesn't do medicals for student
Yeah, for
visas.
F1 now. I didn't do medical. I think that was for Canada. I did. That was
Canada,
yeah. Yeah.
Canada
We're
is the
going
one
to
that
yeah.
asks you to do medical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For the
yeah,
US, I didn't do medical.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So started the process of applying for the Mpower in June. That was the one that took me the longest, because it took like almost a month, because there was like some back and forth. First thing, they check your credit score. So
In
if you're
Kenya?
somebody,
Wait. So
yeah,
you do have credit scores in Kenya?
yeah, you have the one for, what is it called? The credit info. There's this credit
Okay.
info report, but they've partnered with another one called Nova. So Nova is the US based credits like agency. Now
Uh-huh.
what they do is they try to find your record from Kenya. So they source it from credit info. So they ask you to like to consent that they're gonna check your
Ah, I'm
credit history. Yeah.
I'm gonna make you laugh a little bit before you go to that serious topic, empower topic. No, I used to have a guy actually. My guy in campus, because I went to the University of Nairobi. My guy
Mm-hmm.
was Mwangi. Mwangi used to sell me the KDFs. So
Ah, yeah. Like what? Like I mean, like that was the order of the day. KDF. I think there was even like a memes. KDF, KDF. Yeah. So that was the order
and
of the day. Like, I mean, like I used to go to the mess, like the cafeteria. the university cafeteria, and we will get like rice. There's this rice, beans, and vegetables. And it was
Mhm.
like 23 shillings, like Kenya shillings. And then so even if you had like 30 bob, you can still eat. Like,
You can
that was the
still
good thing about the campus life. That was subsidized.
yeah. So wait, so Empower, how did you like how did you come to know about Empower? And
Uh-huh.
then you can take us through the long process of applying for it.
Yeah. Okay. So Empower is kind of like if you don't have, like, there are a lot of lenders out there. You just gotta like do your research. So the reason why Empower is because they were offering like better, I would say, like interest rates. So they give you like a fixed interest rate. So I think it was 12.74%. And they give you like a 10-year repayment period. So
Wait,
um
you said 12%?
12.7%, twelve
And
point seven four. That's what they gave me. But it
do
it
you
can
like when does the interest start to accrue? Is it after you're
now
done?
the interest. So when you arrive here in the US,
Hmm.
and that's probably the most thing like people need to know, they're gonna have you to start paying the interest, not the principal. You start paying the interest. So you need to kind of like find something like a job, an on-campus job that will kind of like help you. But if you don't get a job, you can use the money they gave you for living into the repayment. So it just starts to repay itself. Because if you delay, then they pile it up. Then when you finish, like you can ask them to like say, hey, I'm not in a position. Could you delay this until when I finish my school? But it's gonna like take a toll on you because you now be
It's
paying
gonna
the
keep
interest plus the principal. So yeah, it kicks in once you start school, and not it's not a lot. Like you pay like $200 so every month for the interest, depending on how much they gave you. Because you see, like how much they give you is depending on the school, the tuition fee, the what is in the I-20. So they try like, but the maximum they can give you is I think 50,000.
the
That's the
maximum they can give you.
50,000 US dollars.
50,
Um,
50. Okay.
50,000. Um, so there are other things that go into that final figure that they give you. There's the credits. I said the credit history. So if you have like defaulted a loan before, or you are servicing a big loan in Kenya, like let's say more than 200,000 Kenya shillings,
Yeah.
it's gonna be tricky. They're gonna say, okay, either they'll give you partial or they won't give you at all, because now you're at the risk of defaulting.
So
Um,
people who don't pay
yeah,
their
like
debts.
people usually like joke and they're like, why did you take like this a big loan? And you're like, like there's this something called the time value of money.
Mhm.
Like let's say the Kenyan American home, you decide to buy a house today, right? Maybe like $100,000.
Mhm.
And I decide to say, I don't want a debt. I don't want debt. I want to like pay everything in cash. And I save up for like 20 years, right? And I buy the same home. You have, lived in that home for 20 years. You've enjoyed it. For me, I pay, after 20 years, I start living.
Yeah.
And for how long am I going to live? A short time. So it's kind of like, you have to like see the bigger picture. Don't just be scared
The
of the
time,
amount.
yeah, the
But
time value of money, but also too,
yeah,
it's it might seem like a big number, like when you talk about how much they're even quoting you for the school, like 8.5 million Kenya shillings. That money to a Kenyan is a lot of money.
it's like the
See,
entire world.
that, that's a lot of money. But that's like when if let's say you finish school and you start working, like here even, well, like the minimum usually, if you have a bachelor's degree, sometimes they start you get a good job that is salaried. They start you off at like what, like 70,000 or so. And so that money, ideally it's paid by 1 year, but it's how much you make after. It's a small investment to then what you'll make, because that money,
Yeah,
it looks very, it's a huge amount of money for a Kenyan.
yeah,
But
I
then
understand.
how much do you stand to make from,
Yeah.
from that? Yeah.
So, so because I didn't have the bank statement, that was, you know, the one that I used, and so after fetching my credit score, uploading my documents, passport, admission letter, so they, you know, like it's a step by step process. Actually, like the portal itself, like the Mpower portal, like it's so, what do you call it? It's intuitive. Like once you finish the next steps, it tells you, okay, we are waiting for this, you upload. We're waiting for this, you upload. So if somebody like, it's so easy. Like you just need to like go there, create an account, say, I want to apply for student loan, and then they guide you through all this. Like it's so
Uh,
intuitive. Yeah. So
it looks like they upped the amount to, they can give up to 100,000 now.
okay. So yeah, I think that's a new one. So
Yeah. But this is kind of like, this is the portal that you're talking about. It's a
yeah,
step by step. I don't know why.
yeah,
It's a step by step. They take you through the whole process. Okay. No,
yeah.
go
Once
on, go
you
on.
create an account, yeah, they give you every information. So after that, took me like until July to get. So I got approved for the loan, and then now in July, so I got like kind of like started to think about the visa. And I'm like, that's like the most dread, like a dreading thing. Like most people, they prefer those countries. They just tell you like submit online and don't appear. But for the US, you have to go there, show up, show that you're a genuine student. That's what they look for is like you're a genuine student. So I realized I didn't have any travel history. So um, I talked to my employer. I was like, I need to go somewhere and try to build some travel history. So it happened we have an office. They had an office in Malaysia. So I went to Malaysia. That was in June 30th. I booked a flight, going to Malaysia, and then I worked from Malaysia for 3 weeks until July 21st. So during that time, I was like paying. So I sent. I remember I sent my mom to pay for me the service fee. I was hunting for a date. So now I couldn't find a date. That was crazy. Like I needed to find a date before August, and I was in mid of July. Then I checked Nairobi embassy. They were like the earliest date is May 2024. I was like, okay. They have an option to expedite, but sometimes they can deny the expedition. It's not guaranteed.
Most of the time they actually deny you.
Yeah, some people think it's so easy. Like, imagine everybody is trying to expedite. Like, what will happen?
Yeah, yeah, they
Like,
deny you more.
most people don't know. Like, expedition is not like they create slots. What they do, they work. They instead of like starting work at 8 a.m., they start
Mhm.
working at like 7, for example. So they have to like they work early. Like they
You,
wake up
you
to handle those emergency cases. So that's why mostly they deny the
yeah.
expedition because they have to create extra time. um so in mid-July, sent my mom to pay for me the service fee. I was still in Malaysia, and then I was looking for a date now. So I found dates in Burundi, Bujumbura. So they were having like July. No, it was August 1st. Not even August. They had like open slots. Like you can book like literally like tomorrow or whatever next week. So I remember I think I booked 28, I think so. And then now there's a lot of, I don't know, is it conspiracy theories about this embassy is better than this. If you go here, you're gonna get denied. So there was a lot of stories I was hearing, and they were like getting into my mind. And eventually I was like, let me try, to look for dates in Kenya, because like if you go to Burundi, that's a travel. Like you need to travel, you're gonna be exhausted. And what if you get denied? There's a lot of stuff going on. So I remember when I was coming back, I was in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It's like around 10 minutes before boarding my return flight to Kenya. I was on my phone just refreshing the visa appointment website. And then I just out of nowhere, a date showed up, July 28th. And I like, so fast booked it, got on the plane and came back to Kenya. So I arrived in July 21st. So I had like 7 days to prepare for my visa interview.
Mm-hmm.
So I started, watching, the videos. I joined visa preparation groups. So maybe Facebook, if you don't know where to find, you can try to go to Facebook, try to find those. You might find maybe people from India, other countries, like sharing their experiences. And then I, watched some of the videos on YouTube, TikTok. So, and then I was like, I'm ready. So went to Nairobi. I remember it was um, 27th. I went a day before. So I went with Northrift. That's our shuttle. So I booked Northrift 6 hours. I was in Nairobi. The following morning, woke up. Was it around like 5 or 6? I went, like took an Uber, went to the embassy, and there were a lot of people who were like, I thought I was the first one. Like people came like, I don't know, 4 or whatever. There was like a big line. They were like, I was like number 600 and something. And I was like, whoa. So, you need to have all the documents. So maybe if you want to like me to list, I can list the documents that I used.
Sure.
One sec. I need to check.
Yeah.
So of course you have to have your I-20. So the I-20, the I-20, and then you need to have your passport. So a valid passport, like it must be valid passport. You need to have your DS-160. So DS-160 is the confirmation that after filling in the online application, you print it, and then you have your service fee receipt. You need to have 2 passport size photos. Your funding, either it's a bank statement or like for me, the Mpower. So Mpower give you like a letter that you're gonna show at the embassy. And then you need to have, any other document that you think it's necessary. So those are kind of like the major ones. So went there, it was intimidating because you can see somebody who's been denied, like I think it was pink. They give you a pink. If you don't have it, they give you a blue. It was so cold. I remember we sat like those benches. I don't know why they use like, is it steel or like they are made of metal? It was so cold. Like, I was freezing. I remember when I entered the window, I was like still shaking, and the visa officer was
I'm
like,
sure they regulate the temperatures so that they start getting you cold
"Yeah."
and
So
so.
we queued, and then there was like, like there's a lot of conspiracy. I'm so like there was like this lady who was like denying people a lot, and then so a window opened up, and somebody, they literally pushed me to go to that lady who was denying people.
Oh, because she's the one
Somebody
that
was
was.
behind me, like he wanted to go to the other window, so they literally like just forced me to go there. And I went there. I was like, okay, this is it. I was less confident. And I remember she was like female or VO. She just asked me like 3 questions. So she was like, okay, when did you graduate? I was like, 2019. And then she was like, okay, so what do you do? And I was like, I work for this company. I'm working for them for 4 years. This is what I do, blah, blah, blah. And then she was like, okay, which courses will you be taking in your first semester? So I answered. I gathered like I had crammed them. I listed, and then he was like, okay, stop. And then he said, which. Then he asked me like, which program, what was your undergraduate in? So he was looking at my I-20. So he wanted to see. She wanted to see if what I'm going to take in Kentucky is related to what I did in my undergrad. So I did procurement and I'm doing supply chain. So it was, matching. And she was like, okay, your visa is approved, pick your passport after 5 days. And I went. So, that moment, like you still don't believe it. I think
They
it
like
sounds,
you almost want to hear it again.
I was like, pardon? Are you sure? Yeah.
And
But,
then you leave because you don't want them to change their mind.
you leave so quickly. Like, literally, go grab your phone, maybe go to a hotel, have some, drink or whatever. So after that, then things now followed, I started like looking for flights. They usually say like don't book your flight before you get the passport. You collect your passport because
Mhm.
maybe they might change the decision. I was like, don't change it. So I started looking for flights. I used Ethiopia Airlines because I didn't want to like. I know there were like cheaper flights, but I used Ethiopia Airlines. Though it was expensive, I used like $1,500. Um, but because it was also near, like I'm traveling in like a week or two, so it was crazy expensive. But I
Yeah.
didn't have like any hassle with using the third party sites. So I booked a flight, but the biggest challenge was getting accommodation. So I didn't know anybody here. Just knew one guy, but at that time the guy was doing Master of Science in Finance at Kentucky. He's a Kenyan, but he was like during summer he went to Boston to see his sister. So he
Mhm.
was like, just try to look, online, or because I'm not in school, I tried to, you know, search for accommodation. So there's another guy we got the visa for Kentucky. So we were two guys who were admitted for the same program from Kenya. So he happened to travel 1 week before me, and he, figured out the accommodation thing. So when I came, I got on campus accommodation. So that helped, in the bit of accommodation. So it was like 1 week. I had to like tell my employer, I got my visa. What do I do with the job? They usually say don't burn bridges. So
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
you know, yeah, because they already knew. They knew even before, like this was my dream, and this is what I'm pursuing. So when they this, they were so happy for me, but I had now to leave, and because of the laws, like they have an office here in the US, but as an F1, you're not allowed to work off campus legally. Yeah, like legally, you're not allowed. So I was like, I had to like resign. So I resigned and then booked my flight, came to the US. I still keep in touch with them and, hopefully to go back, maybe in the US office or something. But yeah, they've been really supportive. And when I came here, now a new chapter. So it's a whole different thing. Like, oh man, the shocks, the culture shocks.
And it's
Uh,
so wait, you had gone to Malaysia, so that was in your first
oh yeah,
experience,
yeah.
experience flying. But then, so you landed. When did you land in the US?
So I left Kenya in August 12th.
Hmm.
I landed in on August 13th. So my flight was like I had like a so I left Nairobi at 6. I went to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, landed at 8 p.m. Had a 2-hour layover, and then took another flight, 8 hours to Dublin, Ireland. So they just stopped to refuel in Ireland for 1 hour, and then another 8 hours to Chicago. So I arrived at Chicago O'Hare, they call it O'Hare Chicago International Airport at on August 18th at 8 a.m. in the morning. So went there. I had a I don't know if I want to talk about it, but it was like a hectic experience at the port of entry. So
Okay.
getting a visa is not everything. So there's still some questions at the port of entry you have to answer. And they're just like trying to verify if whatever I give the embassy is the same story that I'm giving them. So they asked me a bunch of questions. Um, they detained me for like 3 hours. I missed
Detained
my
you for
flight.
3 hours.
Yeah, like I think 4 hours.
Oh wow. So wait, what were they saying?
No, okay. Part of like most of the time was just like waiting, like you're just waiting because they take your passport and then they go. I think they do like they check your service ID if it's active. They check if you have any travel history in the US. So if you don't have, then they pull you to an interview room and then they ask you, all sorts of questions like maybe like, where are you going to stay in the US? Do you have accommodation? Will you be working? You know, and then how will you fund your studies? Do you like a lot of bunch of questions. But I remember like it wasn't like they're not trying to like they're not suspecting or anything, but they just want to like like that record stays there forever. So when you exit the US and can come back and then you say a different story, they'll be like, on this day you said this. So they because I didn't have a record, they wanted to like have some record there. So I understood. But I remember when I left, when they were saying like, okay, enjoy your stay in the US. He told me like the it's called the CBP, Customs and Border Patrol. He told me like one thing like told me like make sure you don't work while you are studying in the US because he said I have seen many students get into trouble for doing that. So yeah, that's what he told me, and then I was like, okay. Then I went. My bag was already in Lexington. Like my bag went with the flight that I was supposed to catch. So I was supposed to catch a flight at was it like 10?
Oh,
But because of the day, I missed
you
it. So my luggage went, and then I was booked. So I went to it was United Airline. I went to them and told them, I was held at the customs. I missed my flight. They're like, okay, we're gonna book you the next one. So they booked me the next one at 3. Then I arrived Lexington, Kentucky at 5 p.m. and got picked from the airport. So for Kentucky, they organize like airport pickup. So you need to like before you travel, there's a form you fill, like say this is the flight number, this is the time of arrival. Then they just once you arrive, you'll just find somebody there waiting for you to pick you up and drop you to your accommodation. So they're so nice. Like yeah, so I didn't have a hassle. Like I came here August 13th, and then now started adjusting to the culture shock, America.
ah, ah. So wait, what did you say you did for accommodation? Said you
For
knew some.
accommodation, I got on campus. There's someone who came before
Oh,
me,
okay.
and then they found the accommodation.
Okay. You roomed with somebody? Is it
Yeah,
in
it was
campus or
it
outside?
was in campus. So you have like 2 bedrooms, but one bath and kitchen. So you share the commons, but you have your own bedroom.
Okay. Okay. Man,
Yeah.
and then so wait, so you've been here now like 2 months?
I think three,
Two
four.
and a half? Yeah, three months. What do you think about the US?
Oh man, I think there is perception and then there is reality.
Yeah,
Maybe when you're back home, you're like, you're gonna just land at the airport, and then money will be falling on you.
land of milk
It's
and
like,
honey.
yeah, it's a land of milk and honey, but you have to work for the milk and honey. It's not gonna come to you. That's just like that. But definitely, like I am grateful if I remember, the struggle home and getting a job. Like here, like literally everywhere is just hiring. We are hiring, we are hiring, we are hiring. So there's a lot of opportunities. At the same time, you still wanna like be yourself, authentic. you want to like find a community that, you know, for the first few months, people don't really talk about. That's why you see like people land and then they sink and then they reappear because of there's a lot of things that you are adjusting
Mm.
to.
Yeah, you need
Yeah,
to learn. You need to learn a lot, and
a
especially you
lot.
coming here and as a student, obviously, unless you know somebody who has a vehicle, if
Yeah,
you're staying in campus, then you don't have a vehicle. So
yeah, it's crazy. Like the good thing about like Lexington is like, so it's like a walkable city,
you,
but also the UK, you know, campus, University of Kentucky, they have this. It's called Lextram. Like it's like a bus system. So it goes round and round the campus. So if I want to go to class, I just go hop on the bus, takes me to class. It goes around like until like midnight. So you can literally just, yeah, as long as you're not moving out of the town, you
yeah.
cannot pay anything. Yeah, but you need a vehicle,
Yeah.
definitely.
What was your first job?
Okay, good question. So I came here. I started applying to jobs on campus. I went for some interviews. I remember there was one in the library. I didn't get it though. So I approached my professor and I was like, you know, I need to find something. And so they tell me, you know, send me your resume. So there's this, it's called UK purchasing. It's like a procurement department for University of Kentucky. And they looked at my resume and they were like, yeah, this person has some background in procurement. They're gonna be a good fit. So I attended an interview. I got the job and I now work as a procurement analyst. So
Uh,
yeah,
Procurement analyst. I know this. I have been kind of suppressing the questions. People have so many questions.
many questions. Okay, so you
I've
can
been,
go.
I've been suppressing them, and so maybe we can move on to
Yeah,
questions.
sure.
Questions.